Not only did Honkai Star Rail's 2.2 update give us such an amazing story, but it also gave us an absolutely busted new form for the Trailblazer. The Harmony Trailblazer not only introduces the new Super Break mechanic to the game, but they also open up the door for break-centric teams to become significantly more relevant going forward. So today, we're going to first go over the Harmony Trailblazer's kit, and then we're going to discuss the impact that they not only have on the game in its current state, but also will have on the future. And I definitely am going to focus a bit on Boothill as well towards the end of the video, so definitely do stick around for that. So, starting out with their kit here, I do have it pulled up on Pridewind just so y'all can see the multipliers for max level traces, since my Harmony Trailblazer is still a work in progress. So for the basic attack, they just deal imaginary damage to a single enemy. Nothing too crazy there, it's just a basic attack. Then for the skill, they have a bounce skill, so it works very similarly to Asta and Sampo's skills, where they will deal imaginary damage to a single enemy, and then will deal a certain number of extra hits to random enemies. And for the Harmony Trailblazer, it is 4 attacks. And this is really good, especially on a character who is focusing so much on break effect, because each of these attacks is going to do 30 toughness. So that can really shred the toughness meter of certain enemies, especially if you are only fighting one enemy, or maybe fighting 1 or 2 enemies. But even if you're fighting a large number of enemies, this can be good for those ads that don't have as big toughness meters, so you could get some breaks on them pretty easily. RNG dependent, of course, since the hits are random. Then we get to their ultimate, which I think is the biggest part of their kit. It has 140 energy cost, which honestly, as it should, for how good it is. So Harmony Trailblazer's ultimate will grant all allies the backup dancer effect for 3 turns, and the uptime for this works the exact same way as Ruan Mei and Robin's skills, where the duration will decrease at the start of the Harmony Trailblazer's turn. So you definitely want to use the ult when right after a Harmony Trailblazer turn, so that you can get the most uptime from it. So whenever allies have the backup dancer effect, they're going to have at trace level 10 a 30% break effect increase, and when they attack enemy targets that are weakness broken, the toughness reduction of the attack is going to become an instance of super break. Now what this means is, whenever you attack an enemy that is weakness broken, you're going to deal an additional amount of damage on top of your normal attack that is known as super break damage. And we're going to go over the formula for that and how that works once I get to my deeper analysis on how this is going to impact the game. But the one thing that I do want to point out about super break is that it also takes into account the toughness reducing damage of the attack, which means that attacks that are doing a ton of toughness are going to benefit a ton more from super break. You may have already seen it when you did the story fight in the 2.2 story, but when you do use the Harmony Trailblazer's skill on a single enemy, or even if you break everyone, you get the you'd use their skill, they're able to do a ton of damage because of the super break, regardless of them not being built as a damage dealer, because they're not a damage dealer, they're a support at the end of the day. So super break can be very powerful in some situations, but of course we're going to analyze that more when I go to talk about the how it's going to affect the meta. Then for their talent, at trace level 10, they get 10 energy whenever an enemy target to weakness is broken, which is very cool, just to have some extra ways to get energy. And 10 energy per weakness break can be very good, especially with that skill being able to hit a good amount of times. Then for their technique, when they use their technique at the start of battle, all allies get a 30% break effect boost for 2 turns, which is very good to get you started, but of course it's not a permanent buff, so it is just kind of a start of battle kind of thing, right? Then for their major traces, the first major trace here, which I think is very important, when the number of enemy targets on the field is either 5 or more, or 4, 3, 2, 1, depending on how many enemies there are, the super break damage triggered by the backup dancer effect increases by a certain percentage. And this is very cool here because you are just going to be able to get some extra damage based on how many enemies are on the field, which can lead to some solid scenarios. I think regardless of which amount of enemies there are, it looks like the lower enemies that there are, the higher the damage bonus is going to be, which does also help in situations where you are fighting just a single enemy, which I think can be very important once we get to 2.3 and we get the Apocalyptic Shadow mode, which we are thinking might be a single target oriented mode. So we'll definitely have to keep that in mind once 2.3 drops. Then for the second major trait here, when you use the skill, you're going to get an additional 100% toughness reducing damage on the first hit, which is on the enemy that you choose to hit, which is very cool to just give even more toughness break. So instead of the first attack being a 30 toughness break, it'll be 60, and the other ones will be 30 afterwards, which is definitely considerable, especially if you are like, you feel like it's going to be very close to breaking enemy's toughness. Then with this, you're going to be able to get that little bit extra and maybe get that weakness break. Then for the last major trace, the enemy will additionally be delayed by 30% when any ally breaks their toughness gauge, which is super good as well, because not only are, they're not going to be able to act for longer, but the longer that an enemy is, weakness broken while the Harmony Trailblazer is on the team, the more chances you have to get that super break damage off. And that's just going to benefit you so much in the long run. Then for minor traces for the stats, you get 37.3% break effect, which is very good. You get some imaginary damage here, and then you get some effect res, which is nice. So these are some solid ones to have here. Then for their Eidolons, and this is also a very important thing, because, and I'll get to it because I'm going to go over them in order, but currently, as of me making this video in 2.2, we can only access up to E5. E6 will likely come out in 2.3, I would assume, so we will have to wait for that, but unfortunately E6 is also one of, if not the most important Eidolon that will really boost this character up and make them as good as everyone is talking about them to be. So starting out here with E1, whenever you use the skill for the first time, you will immediately recover 1 skill point, which is very nice to, have that skill point economy not be super crazy at the start of battle. Of course, it's only a one-time thing per battle, but it still is a nice thing to have to, basically have a skill point neutral skill. Then for E2, when the battle starts, the Trailblazer gets a 25% energy regeneration rate buff for 3 turns, which is very nice because you do want to try to get that ultimate as fast as possible, so you can start the cycle of having the ultimate up, getting as much energy as you can from breaking the enemies, and then getting the super break damage on them. So yeah, E2 is very good for keeping that cycle kind of going, especially if you don't want to run energy regeneration rope, which is an option with the Harmony Trailblazer. Then for E3, you get some scaling on the skill and talent, which is cool, so a bit extra energy and then some extra damage on the skill. Then for E4, when Trailblazer's on the field, increases the break effect of all teammates besides themselves by an amount of 15% of the Trailblazer's break effect. And considering that you do want to build a good amount of break effect on them for the super break damage as well, this is going to be a pretty hefty amount, which is going to be really exciting for characters that are going to thrive off of break effect. Then for E5, you get some extra scaling on the ultimate and basic attack, and extra scaling on the ultimate means that we are getting a higher break effect increase from that as well, which is honestly really good. And then for E6, which is the one we cannot get yet, the number of additional damage applications by the skill increases by 2, which means that instead of hitting 4 times on random enemies, you're going to be hitting for 6 times now, making it 7 times total that you're hitting the enemy. So instead of you being able to do 150 toughness with all of the hits, you're going to be doing a combined total of 210 toughness because you are getting those extra 2 hits, which, depending on the enemy you're fighting, could be the difference of breaking their toughness or just barely being off from breaking their toughness. So that is the Harmony Trailblazers kit there. I do think it's a very solid kit, and we'll especially be able to see their full potential once we can unlock that E6. But now I do want to transition into what makes them so fundamentally good. So, and the main answer to that, the short answer is Super Break, because Super Break is pretty ridiculous when you really get down into how it exactly works and what characters are really going to benefit from it. So Super Break is just going to reward characters that work the best when dealing a lot of toughness damage and have a lot of break effect built onto them. Because when we think about break teams before the Harmony MC, break teams, their main sort of goal was to deal as much toughness damage as possible so that they can get a massive amount of damage done at the specific moment that they get the weakness break. and then basically trying to kill the enemy as fast as they can with that break effect damage. But because of that, their damage otherwise may not have measured up to other comps. But now, because the Harmony MC's super break damage allows you to get that really strong damage on enemies while they're in the weakness broken state and not just on the attack that is completely breaking their toughness, that opens up a lot of doors because they're going to be able to perform extremely well. And I think that all goes into how the super break is calculated. And I am going to show real quick this Reddit thread by Global Certified, another content creator, that has the super break formula on here. So the way it's calculated real quick here is that you take the level multiplier, which there's a break multiplier. I don't have the I did not mean to open that. Yeah, the level multiplier, which is basically it does take into account what level your character is. So you do want to try, especially if you're running a break character, you want to get them level 80 so that you can have that multiplier at its highest. Then then it also scales on the toughness reducing damage of the attack, which I did mention earlier, which I'm going to talk about characters in a bit here, but I think the big important character to think about with the toughness damage is Ruan Mei, because Ruan Mei is going to increase your break efficiency, which increases the amount of toughness damage you're going to be doing on each attack. So yeah, attacks that can do a lot of damage, toughness damage, not specifically like the damage itself or the break damage. If you can deal a lot of toughness to the enemy, then you're going to get a very solid buff there. Then it also does scale nextly on the break effect. So the allies that build a lot of break effect are going to benefit extremely from the super break damage. Then you also get the ascension bonus for the extra damage on super break. Then it also scales off of things like defense down, like type res down, because the super break damage is based on your element, the vulnerability down, and then the multiplier you get from breaking weakness. So because of that, it is super important to have a lot of break effect, and those characters that do have a ton of break effect are going to benefit so much from the super break damage from the Harmony Trailblazer, because now they're going to be able to deal damage in a weakness broken state a lot better than they did before. So to round it all off here, now I'm going to talk about the characters that I think are going to benefit the most from the Harmony MC. And of course, I think any character can benefit at the end of the day, depending on how much break effect you give them and how well invested your Harmony Trailblazer is. But I did pick out some examples of characters that I think are very strong when it comes to break and are going to just be even stronger with the Harmony Trailblazer. Now, I haven't tested like all of them, but I do think just based on what their kit does and from what I know, that they're going to perform extremely well with the Harmony Trailblazer. And the first one I want to bring up, who I've brought up already, is Ruan Mei, because not only does Ruan Mei increase the break efficiency for the team, allowing you to deal more toughness damage and thus making the entire team super break damage stronger just by existing, but she also does have a lot of break effect herself. And with my Ruan Mei build, I believe she's at with her break effect buff, I believe she's at like 180% at the start of battle, not including the Trailblazer extra like 30% from the ultimate. She does deal anywhere from like 15 to 20,000 super break damage on her normals, which definitely does add up for sure. So it definitely is pretty solid there. Plus she also gives a break effect bonus to the entire team. So not only is she boosting the break efficiency to get more toughness damage, but she also is giving some extra break effect to every ally. So that is also very good for Ruan Mei as well. I believe it's a 20% break effect boost that she gives on one of her traces, so that's also an extra benefit to get allies super break damage up. Then I kind of paired these characters together, but really any character that really thrives off of getting a lot of break effect, and the three I put here are going to be Sushang, Luca, and Gallagher, because they are really just characters that love a lot of break effect. Sushang and Luca have been break effect type characters for a while now, and they do perform very well, and them being able to get some more damage is going to be very strong for them. Especially like, I know we've all seen Luca breaking people for like 200k, right? Now imagine that on crack, right? Because that's what's going to happen when you pair Luca with Harmony MC, and you're getting the Luca bleed procs, plus you're getting a super break damage that's built upon Luca's insane break effect stat, if you haven't built on that break effect build. And of course, Sushang, I believe she has some action advancement on her kit too. So you'll be able to get more attacks, which means more super breaks that are going to benefit from her break effect if you're building her that break effect build. Then lastly for Gallagher, Gallagher has some turn manipulation in his kit, which is super cool. So I could definitely see a situation where you do a basic attack with him, the enemy has only like a little bit less than their toughness meter, you get your ultimate, you pop the ultimate, get the break, and then you get his enhanced basic attack to deal the super break damage. And since Gallagher does have break effect scaling on his outgoing healing, you're going to be able to do a very solid amount of the super break damage on him. So Gallagher is definitely going to be extremely useful there. And then the last character I want to highlight, which while we don't know too much about him yet because he has not come out yet, is going to be Boothill. Now, from what they talked about in the live stream, it seems that Boothill is going to want to either defeat enemies as fast as possible or get their weakness broken. And I do think that because he can benefit from breaking enemies' toughness bars, that he's going to benefit a lot from the Harmony Trailblazer, because not only is he going to be able to probably do some good damage with before they're broken, but also he'll be able to continue doing damage if you do have enough break effect on him when they are in the weakness broken state because of super break. So yeah, super break is a very very solid and very good mechanic for the game, and I do think it's really exciting that break effect teams are going to be seeing a bit more spotlight. I definitely am interested to try out the Harmony Trailblazer in more situations once I have them fully built. But I'm going to end off my video here about that. Let me know what you all think about the Harmony Trailblazer in the comments below. I definitely am interested to hear your guys' thoughts about it, because I do think that they have the potential to really shape this new break effect meta. Well, I should say new break effect meta because people were running break teams to begin with, but the break effect meta is going into a new kind of era with the Harmony Trailblazer. But thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed and haven't already, definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button. The support's greatly appreciated. And I will see you all next time.